My sister demanded $50,000 for her wedding, money I had spent 15 years saving dollar by dollar to open my bakery. When I said no, my family cut me off. What I didn't know, was that I was never really alone. The first thing I ever made by myself was a butter cake. I was 8 years old, standing on a step stool in my mother Dorothy's kitchen, and I had flour on my nose and eggs on my sleeve, and I thought I had discovered something close to magic. You take these plain, ordinary things, flour that looked like powder, eggs that looked like nothing, sugar that just looked like sand, and you combine them in a particular order, in a particular way, and something entirely new arrived in the world, something warm, something that made people close their eyes when they tasted it. I never got over that feeling. By the time I was 10, I was making the cornbread. By 12, the sweet potato pies. By 13, I had taken over all the desserts in the house, and nobody argued with me about it because nobody wanted to go back to what we had before. My sister Rachel did not share this love. Rachel's loves were different. Rachel's loves had price tags, fashion, shoes, the right bag for the right occasion. Rachel was 3 years younger than me, and in our house that meant something. Younger meant softer. Younger meant the rules were gentler. Younger meant our father Roger looked at her like she had personally hung every star, and whatever she wanted, he found a way to make sure she got it. Rachel was the priority in our family. I was the one Dad said he was proud of. Those are not the same thing. Our mother Dorothy moved through our house quietly. She made meals and made peace and made herself small whenever my father had opinions about how things should go, which was always. She was not the kind of woman who made demands. She was the kind of woman who checked in on you after the storm had passed to make sure you were still standing. I loved my mother. I watched her, and I loved her, and quietly over years, I made a decision that I would build a life for myself where I did not need to be that quiet. I started working at Geneva's bakery when I was 15. Geneva was a black woman in her late 50s who had opened the bakery on her own 20 years earlier and had been feeding Oakland ever since. She didn't hire me because she needed the help. She hired me because I came in one Saturday with a tray of lemon pound cakes and set them on her counter and asked if she would taste one. She tasted one. She hired me that same afternoon. I worked 15, sometimes 20 hours a week through high school. Geneva taught me things my mother's kitchen couldn't: how to scale a recipe, how to manage a commercial oven, how to read the room when a customer was celebrating something versus just needing something sweet to get through the week, how to price your work so you could keep doing it. I saved almost everything I made. I had a notebook where I tracked it. Not because anyone told me to, because I had a picture in my head, my own counter, my own cases, my own door with my own hours posted on it. And I understood, even at 15, that pictures like that required capital. Rachel watched me accumulate money the way she watched everything she couldn't have, with an interest that would eventually become a request. It started small. $10 here, $20 there. She always had a reason. A jacket, a concert. Something all her friends were doing, and she didn't want to be the only one without. I gave it to her the first few times because she was my sister and it was $10 and I thought she would pay it back. She did not pay it back. She began to count on it, and then she began to expect it, and then one afternoon she came into my room like she was collecting something already owed to her and told me she needed $40 for a pair of shoes, and I said no. The sound she made, you would have thought I had suggested something criminal. She went to our father. I still remember sitting at the kitchen table when he came in with that particular look. Not angry, not exactly. Disappointed, resigned. He said, "Anaya, you have money. Why can't you just help your sister out?" I sat with that for a moment. Because it's my money, I did not say. Because I earned it. Because I woke up before school 3 days a week and stood on my feet for hours and smiled at every customer and scraped flour off my arms every night. What I said was, "She needs to learn to manage what she has, Daddy." He shook his head like I was speaking a language he found sad. After that, I found a different approach. I told my family the bakery was struggling. They had cut my hours. I'd had some unexpected expenses. The story shifted slightly depending on what Rachel was asking for, but the core of it stayed the same. I would love to help, but I just don't have it right now. I hated lying. I was not built for it. But I had looked at the alternative, my savings being redirected into Rachel's closet while my father nodded approvingly. And I had made my choice. My mother never said a word about any of it. But sometimes, after one of those conversations with my father, she would find me in my room and ask how things were going at the bakery. Just that. Just a check-in. And something in the way she asked it told me she knew exactly what the bakery was really for. I did not want to go to college. I want to be honest about that. The path I had in mind for myself did not require a degree. It required skill and money and time, and I was accumulating all three. But I was a black woman in America, and I understood, without anyone having to explain it to me, that the world would hold me to a different standard than it held other people. That the same leap of faith that might look like ambition in someone else could look like recklessness in me. That I would need receipts for things other people could just claim. So I enrolled at the community college, lived at home, chose business as my major because I was practical about my impracticality. If I was going to run a business, I should understand how businesses ran. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I wrote essays about my dreams and my community and my mother's kitchen until I got so good at those essays, I could write them in my sleep. The second year, I got a scholarship from a local business association for young women in food entrepreneurship. It covered tuition and a little more. I moved the remainder into my notebook. Rachel, meanwhile, went to a private college out of state. Our father found a way to pay for it, and when he couldn't, Rachel called and the bank account got replenished and nobody asked too many questions about where the money was going. She was majoring in sociology, which she had chosen, she told me once, because it seemed like the easiest path to a diploma. She wasn't going to college to build anything. She was going to college until she found the right man. I did not say this out loud. I thought it very clearly. I graduated and started working. First at a production bakery in Emeryville, learning volume and speed, then at a small artisan shop in Rockridge, learning the slower work, laminated doughs, fermented starters, the long patience of sourdough, then a French Caribbean place in the Temescal where I learned to put flavors together in ways that surprised even me. I was getting good. I knew it the way you know things that live in your hands. And then I got the call about France. Institut Leaf was in Lyon. I had done my research. I had talked to bakers. I had spent months reading and asking questions and comparing programs, and what I kept coming back to was this. Lyon was the gastronomic center of France. Not Paris. Lyon. The city where for over 200 years a group of self-taught female cooks had shaped the culinary identity of Lyon, France. They had elevated the city to be the gastronomic capital of the world. The markets were extraordinary, and you couldn't walk 2 blocks without encountering something that would change what you understood about food. A long-term degree program would cost more money than I had, and more time than I could afford, but they offered focused certificate programs, 3 months, intensive, practical, technical skills plus immersion plus access to some of the best ingredients in the world. I applied. I got in. I funded it myself. A combination of savings and a small grant from a culinary arts foundation I had found buried in a search result at 11 o'clock one night. I told my family I was going. My father said it seemed like a long way to go to learn to bake. Rachel asked if I was going to bring her anything back. My mother hugged me at the airport. She didn't say much. She just held on a little longer than she usually did, and when she let go, she looked at me the way she sometimes did, like she was saying something she didn't have the words for. I was gone for 3 months. I came back different, not changed, more like clarified, like someone had turned up the resolution on everything I already knew. I got my own place in East Oakland, a small apartment with a kitchen big enough to work in if I was strategic about it. I started with pop-ups, once a month out of my apartment, by reservation only, 12 seats, prix fixe dessert tasting. Word spread the way it spreads when the thing is actually good, slowly, then suddenly. I did catering on the side, weddings, corporate events, birthday celebrations, and every Saturday I drove to the farmer's market in Grand Lake with a folding table and 2 rolling racks and sold out by noon. Every week, without exception. I kept my notebook. The numbers were moving. Not fast, but steadily, reliably in the right direction. One year there was a rough stretch. The oven in my apartment broke, and the repair costs ate a chunk of my emergency fund, and I was doing math in my head at 2 in the morning trying to figure out how to cover the next month. And then a check arrived in the mail from a culinary school alumni program I had almost forgotten applying to, a small equipment grant for working food professionals. The timing was so precise it made me sit down. I thought about it for a minute. Then I put the check in the bank and bought a new oven and kept going. October arrived. 2 things happened in October, and they arrived so close together I have sometimes wondered whether the universe has a sense of timing or a sense of humor. The first thing, Geneva, the owner of the bakery where I had first started working, called me. She was retiring. After 30 years, she was done. Her knees were not cooperating, her grandchildren were in Atlanta, and she had decided it was time to go be closer to them. She wanted to sell the bakery. She had thought about who she wanted to sell it to, and she had thought about it for a while, and then she had called me. I sat in my car in the parking lot of a grocery store and cried, the quiet kind of crying, the kind that isn't sad. We worked out the terms over several weeks, Geneva and her lawyer and me. The down payment was significant but not impossible. The monthly payments would come out of the bakery's revenue, with terms that gave me room to breathe in the slow months. Geneva had known me since I was 15 years old. She knew what I would do with her bakery. She trusted that. I signed the paperwork and walked out into the October air and felt the particular weight of a dream that had just become a plan. The second thing? Rachel called. She was getting married. His name was Marcus, and he came from a family with money and expectations in equal measure. The wedding was going to be beautiful, she told me. It was going to be everything. The number she gave me was $150,000. I let that sit in the air between us for a moment. His family was covering half. Our father was contributing $25,000. That left a gap of $50,000. Rachel, as it turned out, did not have $50,000. What Rachel had was the absolute certainty that the universe would arrange for her to have whatever she needed, and in this case, the universe was shaped like me. "You have money," she said. "You've always had money. This is my wedding, Anaya. My one day. Don't you want me to have my one day?" I thought about that. I thought about the notebook. I thought about the 3 months in Lyon. I thought about the oven in my apartment and the Saturday mornings at the market, and the afternoon I sat in a parking lot and cried the quiet kind of crying. "I'm buying a bakery," I said. "Oh, you can do both," she said. "You always figure it out." The full court press started the next day. Rachel called every morning. Our father called every evening. The arguments were not really arguments. They were variations on a single theme, played in different keys. This is family and this is her one day. What does it say about us if we can't do this for her? You have more than enough. Do you know how this looks to Marcus's family? That last one. The looking. The appearance of it. My father had always cared about that. What things looked like from the outside. What people would see. I had understood for a long time that in our family, appearance was its own kind of currency, and Rachel had always known how to spend it. My mother was conspicuously absent from the campaign. She did not call. She did not text. I noticed. I held the line. Some days it was easier than others. There were nights when I lay in my apartment and did the math in my head. What if I just gave them part of it? What if I found a smaller space? What if I waited another year? And then I would think about Geneva, about what it meant that she had called me, about the fact that opportunities like this one don't wait for you to be ready. I said no. Every day I said no. Then came the ultimatum. It came from Rachel, but it had my father's weight behind it. "If you don't give us the money, we're done with you. You're out of this family." I sat with it, and then something strange happened, which is that I felt, not nothing, but something smaller than I expected. Something manageable, like finding out a door you had been afraid to go through was lighter than it looked. "Okay," I said. Rachel stopped calling. My father stopped calling. My invitation to the wedding did not come. My mother sent me a text the following Thursday. "How is everything going?" I texted back, "Good. Getting ready to open the bakery. How are you, Mama?" She said, "Good. I'm proud of you." I put my phone down and went back to work. I opened Brown Sugar Bakery in the second week of November. I kept Geneva's menu mostly intact. She had spent 30 years building something people loved, and you don't throw that away. The sweet potato pie, the cornbread, the peach cobbler that had a dedicated following among people who didn't even particularly like peach cobbler. I added my own things slowly, carefully. The laminated morning buns I'd learned in the Temescal, a miso caramel Danish that became quietly famous within the first 2 months, the seasonal tarts I changed out every few weeks to keep people coming back to see what was new. People came, not immediately, never immediately, but steadily. Word moved through the neighborhood the way Geneva's word had moved 30 years ago, mouth to mouth. The bakery smelled like something remembered. That helped. I worked. I kept the books. I managed the cases and the cases and the cases again. I hired 2 part-time people and trained them the way Geneva had trained me. My father did not come. Rachel did not come. The wedding, I was told through a mutual cousin, had been beautiful. The gap had apparently been covered through a combination of a wedding loan and some creative accounting of what needed to happen versus what would merely be nice. $50,000 of debt, taken on to look good. I did not say this out loud. I thought it very clearly. My mother came on a Tuesday morning about 3 weeks after I opened. She came in quietly, the way she did everything, and she ordered a coffee and a slice of the sweet potato pie, and she sat at the small table by the window and she ate it slowly. She didn't make a production of it. She didn't ask for a tour. She just sat there in the morning light in her good coat and had her coffee and her pie, like a regular customer, like she had always been doing this and this was simply another Tuesday. She paid before she left. I tried to wave it off. She put the money firmly on the counter. "You run a business," she said. "Charge what you charge." She came back the next week, and the week after that. The first year had hard months. There was the refrigeration unit in April that decided to stop working without warning. There was the slow stretch in the summer when everyone was at barbecues and not at bakeries. There was a broken pipe in October, exactly 1 year after I signed the papers, that required a plumber and a drywall repair and 2 days closed. Each time I did the math. Each time it was tight, and each time something arrived. The refrigeration emergency, a small business relief grant from the city, one I had applied for months earlier and completely forgotten about. The summer slow, a catering contract through a friend of a friend, a corporate client who needed monthly treats for their office and had budget for it. The pipe, an insurance disbursement that came through faster than I expected, and a check from a culinary foundation with a memo line that said equipment and facilities support. The checks all had different sources, different names, different reasons. But I began to notice something. The timing was never random. My mother came in one quiet Wednesday in March, about 18 months after I opened. It was mid-morning. The rush had died down. I came out from the back and sat across from her with my own coffee, which I rarely did, but something about the way she was sitting told me she had come with something to say. She looked at the bakery for a moment, the cases, the photographs Geneva had let me keep on the wall, the history of the place layered under mine, the way good things layer. "I have to tell you something," she said. I waited. "The money," she said. "When your oven broke, when you needed the deposit for this place to come through in time, when the refrigeration unit went." She paused. "That was me." I set my coffee down. "The culinary grants," she said. "Some of them were real. I found them sometimes, and I would send you the information anonymously. But the checks, the ones that came at the right time, those were from me." I looked at my mother. She looked back at me with the same steadiness she had always had, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't move. "Mama," I said. "Where?" "Your grandmother," she said. "When she died, there was a life insurance policy. Not a large one, but something. Your father didn't know about it, I never told him." She said this without accusation, without drama. Simply as fact. He would have wanted to manage it, put it somewhere. And I knew that whatever it went toward, it wouldn't go toward what I wanted it to go toward. She looked at her coffee cup. "I have been watching you," she said, "since you were 5 years old on that step stool. I have been watching you want something and work for it and protect it and not let anyone take it from you." And I thought, your grandmother would want to be part of that. So I made sure she was. I didn't speak for a moment. "The memo," I said finally, "on the last check. It said, 'I'm always here.'" "Yes," she said, "that was you. That was me." I looked at my mother across the table in my bakery on a quiet Wednesday morning, and I thought about all the years I had believed I was doing it alone. All the years I had told myself that no one in my family saw what I was building, that I had been left to figure it out by myself, without support, without acknowledgement, without anyone in my corner. I had been wrong. Not about my father, not about Rachel, about my mother. My mother had been in my corner for 30 years, doing it the only way she knew how, quietly, without announcement, in a way that couldn't be intercepted or redirected or argued over at the dinner table. She had hidden a whole history of support inside the ordinary shape of her life so that no one would think to take it from me. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" I asked. Not accusatory. I just wanted to understand. "Because your father would have seen it as his to manage," she said. "And because Rachel would have found a way to make it about her." She said this gently, but without flinching. "And because you didn't need me to say it. You were doing what you needed to do. I just wanted to make sure you had a little more room to do it." I thought about the money I had put into my notebook over the years, adding it up. I thought about all the times something had arrived just when I needed it, and I had chalked it up to timing, to luck, to the universe happening to notice me. It wasn't the universe, it was my mom. "Mama," I said. "Thank you." She picked up her coffee. "Don't thank me. You did the work." She looked around the bakery again, and something in her expression shifted, something softer, something she usually kept in reserve. "She would have loved this," she said. "Your grandmother. She would have come in every week and ordered the same thing every time and told all her friends." I laughed. It surprised me. Then it didn't. "What would she have ordered?" I asked. My mother smiled. "The real kind, the kind she didn't give out easily." "The sweet potato pie," she said, "every time, without exception." Rachel did not come to the bakery. I had not expected her to, and I was not sitting with the door open waiting. My father did not come either. That chapter of my family had closed in October, and I had made my peace with it, not without grief, not without the particular ache of what family is supposed to be and what mine had turned out to be, but with something that felt increasingly like clarity. There are people who love you the way they want to love you, in the way that serves the story they are telling about themselves. And there are people who love you the way you actually need to be loved, which is a quieter and less visible thing, but considerably more useful. I knew which kind I had. My mother came every Tuesday. She always ordered the same thing. She always paid. She always left a little before the second rush so she could get home before my father's schedule required her to be there. I never asked her to talk to him. I never asked her to choose. That was not what she was offering me, and I understood that now. What she was offering was this: presence, consistency, the check-in after the storm, the resources quietly arranged at the moment they were needed. Some people show love in the grand gesture. My mother showed love in the infrastructure. The bakery turned too. I catered a wedding, a real one with a cake I was proud of, for a couple who had found me through the farmer's market and driven all the way across the county to taste the samples before they committed. They came back 3 times. That kind of thing. I hired a third part-time employee, a young woman named Jasmine, who reminded me a little of myself at 17, who showed up early and watched everything carefully and asked the right questions. I started teaching her the way Geneva had taught me. The notebook was still there. The numbers had grown past what I had once dreamed was possible, and I had begun to dream bigger, which is how you know you have arrived somewhere, not at the destination, but at the place where a further destination becomes conceivable. One Thursday, I was in the back doing the week's accounts, and I found a card in the mail mixed in with the invoices. It had my mother's handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a photograph. My grandmother, who I had only known until I was 3, standing in a kitchen, apron on, flour on her hands, looking at the camera with the kind of smile that suggests she knew something you didn't. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, she knew too. I put the photograph on the wall behind the counter, between Geneva's photographs and my own. 3 women in kitchens, 3 sets of hands that understood what could be made from ordinary things. I made myself a coffee and stood there looking at it for a moment. Then I went back to work. My sister had demanded $50,000. She said, if you say no, you're out of the family. And I said okay, and I meant it. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, was that the money I thought I was saving alone, I was never really saving alone. Sometimes the family is the woman who comes in on Tuesdays and orders the same thing and pays full price and leaves before the rush. Sometimes the family is the grandmother you barely knew, who left something behind just in case you'd need it. Sometimes the family is the woman who trained you and trusted you and called you when it was time. The flour I will always provide for myself. I know how to do that. The rest was already there. It just came quietly, the way the best things do. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe.